Today we're going to talk about the home front in World War II. So we're going to talk about what's actually going on in the United States. This is actually going to be a little bit personal because we're going to talk a lot about Collinsville today in particular. So kind of big important event actually happened in Collinsville that we're going to discuss. So all right, here we go. So anything that's like the pinkish reddish color is going to be highlighted. So wartime agencies. So we're going to have a few agencies that are going to kind of organize the economy for us and kind of make things a little bit easier to get resources out to people. So one of these things is going to be the War Industries Board. This was established in order to coordinate the production of actual war materials. And so they basically made it so that manufacturers were producing things that they wanted, okay, so or that they needed for the war. So they were telling them what to produce. They were allocating the materials to the people who needed them, and then they ordered construction of new factories, and they even set prices. And then the Food Administration is basically responsible for increasing food production while reducing civilian consumption because a lot of the food was now going over to the soldiers fighting in the war. Okay, so people were encouraged to grow victory gardens, and so this is they would call them victory gardens. It was just your own garden that you would plant in order to feed your family, so that you didn't have to be going to the store and buying things that could otherwise be going to soldiers fighting in the war. And then the Fuel Administration is going to manage the nation's use of coal and oil. And so by the end of the war, the U.S. spent about $32 billion overall for the war. And to pay for it, Congress is going to raise taxes, and they're going to borrow about $20 billion through Liberty and Victory bonds. Okay, so that's actually money that was owed to the people. Okay, so it's not like they're borrowing it from like China like we do now. Okay, so they owe that money to the people. Okay, mobilizing the workforce. So some women did go to work. About 1 million are going to join the workforce, and about 8 million are going to switch to higher paying industrial jobs. Now, none of these jobs are permanent. So when the soldiers return, they go back to their old jobs or back to being a housewife or whatever if they had joined in the workforce. The Great Migration is also going to happen during this time period. I'm going to show you a map of this in a moment, but Henry Ford is going to recruit African Americans to work in his factories. So we're going to see between 300 to 500,000 African Americans move from the south up into the north. So we're going to see the racial makeup of cities is going to be drastically changed. In like St. Louis is going to be one of them, but Chicago, New York, Cleveland, and especially Detroit. And I'll show you a map of what that looks like in a moment. But Mexicans also started moving north too because there's a lot of job opportunities in the city. So over 100,000 Mexicans are going to move into the cities. So like Chicago, St. Louis, Omaha, etc. And so there's going to be a lot of movement and a lot of new people joining in the workforce. So this is what the Great Migration looked like. So the first Great Migration happens during World War One. You can see a lot of the African Americans that were in the South are moving up into the cities in the North. Okay, and then the second migration happens during World War II. This is what this is. Okay, so they're going to start moving farther west. Okay, so shaping public opinion. So the Committee on Public Information, Wilson created this in order to sell the war to the people. So to get people really excited for the war, really supportive of the war. So they're going to distribute pamphlets and arrange patriotic talks. And this is going to encourage Americans to support the war. So they're going to do things like buy bonds, reporting draft dodgers. So if you're drafted and you don't report, somebody, your neighbor, somebody might call you out and report you to the authorities, things like that. Civil liberties are going to be curtailed a little bit, so the government is going to pass legislation in order to fight espionage or spying. So one of these things is going to be the Espionage Act. So basically, this act made it illegal to aid the enemy or give false reports or interfere with the war effort in any way. And then the Sedition Act is going to make it illegal to speak against the war publicly. And so this all is going to lead to a very anti-German sentiment, which is going to lead us into the big event that happens in Collinsville. So there are literally attacks on German Americans, on labor activists, on socialists and pacifists. All basically, if you didn't, if you didn't support the war, then you could be persecuted in some way. Okay, so this leads us to the lynching of Robert Prager. So Robert Prager, he emigrated from Germany. He was born in Dresden, Germany, and he came to the U.S. when he was 17 years old. When he got here, he actually tried to enlist in the Navy, but he was rejected. So he moved into St. Louis, and he became a baker, but he was fired because he had a very stubborn personality. Germans are actually known for that. I've related to many Germans, and they're definitely known for that. But he applied to the United Mine Workers Union, and he went to work in a mine in Maryville, Illinois. So he's going to be denied union membership because he was German, he was unmarried, and he was considered a socialist. Even though he had tried to join the Navy and he kept proclaiming how much he loves the United States and all that. But on April 3rd of 1918, he's going to be seized by a group of miners and told to leave Maryville. Okay, so he goes to his home, and the UMW leaders were a little concerned for his safety because he was ticking off a bunch of miners, and they were concerned for his safety, and so they asked the Council PD to take him into protective custody, but they declined. Okay, so then a drunken mob is going to find Prager at his home and drag him into the street. Then a policeman's going to intervene, and then they're going to take him into protective custody. But after that, the mob kind of disperses, but then eventually the mayor decides he's going to close all the saloons. So you have a bunch of these guys who have been drinking, and they're really mad at Robert Prager, and they want to go find him. So they go to the jail in Collinsville. They go to the jail, and they grab him. Okay, so they march him down Main Street onto St. Louis Road, and then they take him to St. John's Cemetery. So it's just right up the road over here, okay, right up the road in St. John's Cemetery, and they allowed him to write a letter to his parents, and they allowed him to pray, and then they hanged him with about 200 people were watching. So 11 men, these guys here, were tried for murder, and they were all found innocent, all 11. And the entire time, those ribbons, they're red, white, and blue ribbons. They were carrying flags. They had a marching band that was like playing the national anthem during the trial and stuff like that. So they tried to make it seem like these guys are very big patriots, when in reality, they just hanged a man for no other crime than just being a German. Okay, so building the military. So they're going to enact conscription or the draft. Okay, so this is forced military service. So to get more soldiers, Wilson is going to create the selective service. So any man between 21 and 30 had to register for the draft. Boys, now you have to register when you turn 18. So many progressives believe that the draft was a violation of democratic principles. Forced military service kind of goes against the idea of freedom. And so about 2.8 million men were drafted, and then another 2 million volunteered. So we had about, of that almost 5 million, about more than 50,000 Americans will die in the war, but 200,000 will be wounded. And about 60,000 will actually die from influenza. So this in total killed about 500,000 Americans between 1918 and 1919. Total deaths for the war, about 25 to 50 million, most of those being Russians. Okay, so about 42,000 African Americans served in combat, and they encountered a lot of discrimination and prejudice in the Army. They served in racially segregated units. Usually they were their own unit, but then they would have white officers in charge of them. And then women were able to serve, but only in non-combat positions. And so the Navy enlisted them as clerical workers, as radio operators, electricians, pharmacists, chemists, photographers, and they were all assigned the rank of yeoman, which is a very low rank. I think it's the lowest rank. I think it's lower even than private. But the Army would not enlist women at all. But they did give them temporary jobs, and the only exception to this is the Army Nursing Corps. Okay, so they served the Army and the Navy, and they were obviously there to treat the wounded. So they did not have ranks, they were not enlisted, but about 20,000 women served in the Army Nursing Corps. All right, and that's all I got for you today. Don't forget to do your processor, and have a good day.